Welcome to the 51st video in this series, Foundations of Communist Organizing. Today we'll be going over the 1970 piece by Amadeo Bordiga, Beyond the Myth and the Rhetoric. I've subtitled this Organic Transmission Belts Linking Party and Proletarian Struggle. We should eschew engagement with bourgeois democracy, as it has historically been shown to produce personal clientism, corruption, and increase the power of opportunists in the party, and thus entrance into it by the party harms its ability to take the autonomous action it needs to at any time. Fundamentally, the party must be ready at any time to convert to a militarized structure, lead working class action in general, and act as the general staff in the revolutionary moment. However, while engagement in bourgeois democracy harms the party's ability to take action, the sort of organic centralism pressed by variations of the Italian internationalist parties, but not by Bordiga himself, trends towards self-harm. Bordiga recognized the necessity to accept opportunities offered by the democracy when it supports the organization and action of developing revolutionary capacity and action of the party. Therefore, the party should instead adopt a more correct position of dialectical centralism, which starts with pressure, however irrational, from below. This pressure is received and rationalized by the leadership, converted into concrete political action within the larger party strategy for the party members to carry out and release their drive. I would term this essentially the application of the mass line within the party. Continuing. In addition, it must be recognized that there's a reason that Bordiga ceased using the word tactics for 20 years, instead using the word strategy. To focus solely on tactics is a minimum program, which leads to inability to look to the future and, under poor circumstances, leads to opportunism. To focus solely on strategy is a maximum program, which lacks concreteness, is hypothetical, and leads to conceptions of the conquest of power by the proletariat as an evolutionary struggle. Instead, strategy should dialectically have the ability to overcome the limited and momentary tactical issues of the present and the aims of achieving the concretized strategic goal, and tactical moments can become dialectically valid within the framework of a class strategy under particular conditions, which the wider strategy must strive to create. Fundamentally, revolutionary tactics are dialectically resolved by attaching them to class strategy, and tactics that are not attached to class strategy simply act as short-term immediatism, compromise, and finally opportunism as a result. Any tactic, therefore, needs to be focused solely on improving the ability of the party and the proletariat to engage in further struggle. An example of this is the tactic of absentitionism, which must be treated as a tactic, not as a platform or principle, so that the forces of the left can be attracted for actual conflict. The party under conditions of retreat applies different tactics than in advance. A correct dialectical interpretation does not treat fundamental contradictions, like absentitionism and electoralism as the case in point, but rather it looks at the historical motives of a given class and its economic totality, class interests in the base, capacity to carry out action materially in the economy, and political totality, class interests in the superstructure, capacity to carry out action in the edifice of the economy. Through this understanding, the party can understand itself, the proletariat, and its enemy, the bourgeoisie. In terms of the party's external relations, it needs to enter into intermediate bodies between the party and class, which act as transmission belts to direct contact the class and lead them in struggle for immediate demands. So these would be unions and the like, by the way. This creates a permanent condition of relation between the party and the working masses, allows the party to draw on them in turn, and is in the struggles of the class drawn towards the party that the party, 1. Defines the conditions of the party's existence. The party begins to being able to know itself and understand its power and position, where it can go and can't go. 2. Confirms the validity of its ideas. If the party's activity is drawing support from the proletariat, then that shows that its line is more correct. 3. Allows for the growth of the party and class. 4. Allows the party to prepare its organs and the class to enter into daily struggle, and thereby accrue wins and thereby trust. And 5. Widen and deepen objective and superstructural possibilities for revolutionary growth. And that is my summary of Damon's Amadeo Bordiga Beyond the Myth and Rhetoric, or at least the section that I read. As usual, if you'd like to go over the quotations I derived the summary from, you can go to the description below and you'll find a link to this Google Doc, along with one to the United Marxist Pact Discord server, wherein we could discuss this, dialectical centralism, organic centralism, anything that you would like in these terms. We would love to have you. Tomorrow we will be going over the 1974 piece, but also by Onorato Damon, Axioms of Revolutionary Theory and Practice. Thank you for joining me for today's topical summary, and I hope to see you then.